It is Christmas special time, and this year I want to take a look at the track Just Like Christmas by the band Low. And what I've done is put together an instrumental solo guitar arrangement of the song. And Low are an incredible band. They've long been a favourite of mine. And the album from which this song is taken, I think it's just called Christmas, is a festive favourite in our household at this time of year. And it really is a classic Christmas album. I think it's right up there with other festive classics like the Phil Spector Christmas album or Charlie Brown Christmas album. And this year it's going to be particularly poignant listening to this record because of the recent death of Mimi Parker, who was the Low drummer and songwriter and had the most amazingly beautiful voice. So what I'm going to do is I'll play through my arrangement for you, then I will show you how I'm doing it, I'll break it down for you, and I also might talk a little bit generally about how you go about putting together these kind of solo guitar arrangements. So let's get started. So there we are. I do really enjoy putting together these kind of solo guitar arrangements, and it can be quite challenging, but it's always interesting and always a good test of your guitar skills and guitar knowledge. And if you are putting together one of these arrangements for yourself, I think my main advice would be to really know the original track well. So do a lot of listening, and with this track you really need to know the melody and the chords, and in particular the lyrics. So I actually wrote down the lyrics, printed them off, and all of the time while I was putting this together I was thinking about the words and the phrasing of the words, because I didn't want to lose that as I was putting the arrangement together. And for a song like this, which is so beautiful and so perfectly formed, I didn't want to mess with it too much. I think sometimes with these solo arrangements, particularly in the jazz realm, it's kind of the done thing to embellish the source material and add in extra chords or reharmonize and do all of this fancy stuff. And for a song like this, I don't think any of that would be appropriate. It just wouldn't work, if you ask me. So what I've tried to do here is just leave that original beautiful melody intact. All of the chords are basically the same. Just kind of keep it simple and beautiful, hopefully. So let me talk in a bit more detail about what I'm doing here. I will break down exactly what I'm doing, and along the way I'll talk about any interesting features in terms of the theory or technique or the harmony, and talk about the kind of things that might help you if you decide to put together your own arrangement of a song. My arrangement is in the key of A, the same as the original recording, and the actual chords are quite simple. We've just got A, B minor, then D, and then a D minor. So A is obviously the 1 chord, then you've got the 2 minor chord, D is the 4 chord, and then we're going to a 4 minor chord. So that chord progression actually just cycles for the entire track. I think it's just those 4 chords. And what is interesting is the way that the melody changes against that chord progression, which stays the same. So what I did at the start of my arrangement was just outline the basic chords, and I was using triads and some volume swells. So the triads I was using, I think, were just on the D, G, B strings. We've got an A triad there, and then B minor, you can play like this, so frets 4, 4, 3, and then D I was just playing like this, so more of a D power chord, and then D minor. And I do like this triad shape for D minor. I was using this shape quite a lot in my arrangement, so rather than this more common D minor chord, I'm playing it like this, so frets 3, 2, 3, which is F, A and D. It's D minor triad, and then going to the 1 chord, and I was using a volume pedal here just to swell into those triads. So always a nice atmospheric sound using those volume swells. Easier for me to use a volume pedal. You can do it by just rolling up the volume knob, so something like this. So that's an option as well. It's just hard to be as accurate with that as you can be with a volume pedal though. On to the first verse, and the melody is all important here. That's what I was thinking about primarily as I was putting this arrangement together and as I was playing it. So thinking about the melody, also about the words, and if you bear the words in mind, I think that helps you with the rhythm and the phrasing. And one thing that it's nice to do in solo arrangements is to try and keep the melody on the top 2 or 3 strings, and that way you can harmonize that melody with chords. And I was using quite a lot of triads, so you can put that on the lower strings and keep the melody on top. So that the melody of the first phrase, we've just got this. So on our way from Stockholm, we're starting on this high F sharp, coming down, and then I'm going over to the 3rd string, B, and A. And the chords that we've got underneath that melody are B minor and D. And what I chose to do is to keep it quite simple, quite minimal to start with. And I was just using this B minor triad shape, so B, D, F sharp. That's got the correct melody note on top already. That's the 5th of the chord of the triad, and then I'm just lifting up my first finger to get the open E. That's the next melody note. For the next couple of melody notes, I'm actually deciding to play them up here, so you can actually slide those 2 fingers up to the 6th and 5th frets. And then we're changing to the D chord, and we need the B and the A melody notes, so I'm just going hammering into that B. And you can have the open D string in there as well. So that's the opening phrase. Then we're going to the D minor. I'm just playing that same triad shape that I used in the introduction. And then we're going to the A chord and just picking out the melody notes in that triad. We need a B as well, so I'm just lifting up my third finger to allow the open B to ring. So it started to snow. And that's taking me to an A chord. Then it really repeats. I might change the rhythm or the phrasing slightly, but I'm doing essentially the same thing. So. And after that second phrase, we just got a few bars of instrumental stuff. So just the A, the B minor and the D, and I'm just arpeggiating those chords in quite a simple way. A, B minor, just playing the full bar chord this time. Going to D. I'm choosing to use this D chord fingering, so rather than the open chord, I'm using this C grip shape. So we've got the 5th fret in 4, 2, and then 3. Just arpeggiating that. And then I've got this. It wasn't like Christmas at all. And the melody I'm playing on the 3rd string, and I've just got one note below that. This is the F note. That's the minor 3rd of the D minor chord. So then sliding up to the C sharp, continuing with some more chords, just arpeggiating some chords. A to B minor. I've got an A triad here and the open A string. Going to B minor here. I've got the root note there, and then I've got frets 7, 5 and 5 on the top 3 strings, so it's that hinting at that kind of minor 11 sound. Then D. Going to D minor. Here I'm playing an inversion of the D minor chord. I've got the F in the bass, so it's frets 8, 7, 7 and then 6 on top, or might go from 5 to 6 on the B string there, and then we're back to A again. Then the second verse starts in a similar way, but then goes off in a slightly different direction. But to start with, I'm playing more or less exactly the same thing. So by the time we got to Oslo, I think is the lyrics there. And then D minor. So that's all pretty much the same. Then we're going to B minor. The melody changes slightly here, so I'm playing this B minor bar chord, then I'm lifting up my 1st finger, I'm bringing it across to the 1st string. You want the open top string, and then I'm just hammering down at the 2nd fret for that F sharp. Then we're going to D, that's my melody note, and I've got this same C shape grip underneath that. Then we're going to the D minor as before. The melody note is on the open top string. And then same thing, B minor, D, D minor, and then we're heading into the chorus. And with this arrangement, I wanted to try and make it go somewhere, to have a bit of dynamic, a bit of light and shade. So for the chorus, I thought I'd take it down a little bit and just play that melody in a really simple way, just literally just the melody notes on their own to start with, and then gradually build things. So we've got just the melody on the B string, and then over onto the 3rd string. So just a plain unadorned melody to start with, then just bringing in some bass notes. So we want the A bass note there, and then a B, So I've got the B bass note here, and I'm just barring across 5 strings there, and then the melody is an E and an F sharp. Then I've got the D bass note underneath the melody there, and then I'm playing some more notes. I'm strumming some chords here, so it's that same D minor triad, going to an A chord. This is the same move I used in the verse, so B minor, bringing that first finger over, and again this is a similar move, so B going to A with the D on the B string, and that's kind of the end of the first chorus. Then I decided to do a little chordal interlude. I mean, on the studio recording, the original recording of this track, it kind of breaks down. There's some drums stuff going on, so I'm just playing some chords here again with the volume swells. So we just got the A, B minor, D, D minor, then just some other triad shapes, just some inversions. So A, B minor, D. Then I just wanted to do a final chorus, but with the melody up an octave, so I decided to do it like this. So I've got E melody note, I've also got the 10th fret on the G and the B. And I'm going to an A triad here at the 14th fret, open A string. Chord changes to B minor, so I'm just giving that chord a strum. And I'm playing the melody like this. So on the top string I've got this D underneath it. So it gives you that nice kind of major second sound. And then melody's on the B string, I've got a D note on top. And then we've got little ending section here, so I'm playing some D minor stuff really, so and some more triads to finish, so an A, D minor, A, D minor to A, so it's just triads on the 3rd, 4th and 5th strings. You will need to know your triad inversions there. I've done some videos on triad inversions if you're not sure of that stuff, but it just shows how useful these triads can be when you're trying to come up with interesting arrangements and you want particular melodies to be on top. And if you've got those triads under your fingers, it's actually very easy just to move them around and create something interesting. And yeah, I'm just ending on this A triad. I think maybe a harmonic at the end, the 7th fret on the 4th string. So that's really it for my arrangement, and you can learn that note for note if you want. There will be a tab up on my Patreon page, or you can just take some of those ideas and feel free to adjust it, adapt it and do it your own way. I think you've got the melody, you've got the chords, lots of possibilities here with coming up with an arrangement, so maybe play around with that and see what you can come up with as well. And my final bit of advice when you're performing something like this is to try and tell a story, to try and make it go somewhere. So that was what I was attempting to do at the start of this video. I was kind of starting quite minimally, quite softly, and then the arrangement grew a little bit. Maybe I sped up a little bit. I started picking a little bit harder at some points, took it down for the first chorus and then built it up again towards the end. So again, that's something you can experiment with, but you don't want it just to be kind of one-dimensional, particularly with this solo guitar stuff, because it can get quite boring because there's obviously not other stuff going on. There are no lyrics, there are no other instruments or any other stuff going on, so you've got to make things interesting just playing the guitar on its own. Since you asked, let me take you through the gear that I'm using today. I was going for that nice, clean, slightly ethereal sound, so fairly processed actually, lots of reverb and delay. The guitar I'm using is my Jazzmaster. This is a 65 vintage Jazzmaster. I think that's what it's called. It's basically a reissue Jazzmaster. It's not currently available, this particular model, but there is a very good reissue Jazzmaster model that Fender are currently making. Then amp wise, I'm using my Fender Deluxe. Got a few pedals down here as well. There's the aforementioned volume pedal that I'm using. That's an Ernie Ball volume pedal. I've got just a touch of overdrive from the J Rocket Archer. This is something I quite commonly do. Even though it's a clean sound, it just adds a little bit of warmth, a little bit of mid-range, so I like that. Also using a compressor, which is something I often do with clean sounds. This is the Cali 76 from Origin Effects. It just adds, again, a bit of warmth, a bit of sustain, I think. And then the key here is the delay. It's my Bell Epoch Deluxe, which I discussed in my recent delay pedals video. I've got that on, I think it's the Deluxe Memory Man mode, and there's a little bit of modulation going on with the delays. And I was also using quite a lot of reverb, and that's coming from two places. There's a bit of reverb coming from the amp. I've got that on about 3 or 4, so the spring reverb from the amp, but I'm also using some extra reverb inside the computer. So when I record the audio for these videos, I always do that separately into my computer, into Pro Tools, and then I can process the guitar signal in there. So I've just added some reverb in there, and the reverb I'm using is made by a company called Valhalla. It's a room reverb, Valhalla Room, but I think the actual preset that I'm using is a chamber reverb, so quite a big dark sounding reverb. Actually works better, I think, on recorded guitar sounds. Sometimes the reverb that you have on the amp doesn't really come across that well on a recording, but if you add it in the computer, then it sounds a little bit bigger, and you've got that stereo sound as well. So that's generally what I do, what I prefer to do on recordings. I might have some reverb on the amp, but I will often augment that with some plug-in reverb in the computer. Let's have some sounds then. I'm going to start with just the guitar going straight into the Deluxe, then I will add the effects one at a time so you can hear what kind of a difference they make. Okay, that's it for this video, and that's it for this year. And I'll be taking a week off next week, so next time you see me will be in 2023. And by the way, if you do want a tab for this one, that's going to be up on my Patreon page. And yeah, massive thank you to all my patrons. Your support on there is much appreciated. That is kind of the main reason why I'm able to do this full-time. I'm a full-time content creator and high-powered influencer, largely thanks to you. And also a big thanks to everyone for just watching the videos, the kind comments, the nice emails that I get, even though it's quite likely I haven't responded to some of those emails. Sorry about that, but I just get so many of them. But thanks to everybody for the support over the past year, and I hope you all have a good Christmas. I'll see you next year. Bye-bye.